Hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. Okay, there we go. Hi. Hi. Yes. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. My button, what about it? I don't know what that means. Still no voice? Should have a voice. Should have a voice. Hot chocolate. Putting this somewhere that I'm not gonna elbow into it. That'll be good enough. Only music. Only music and other sounds. Are you oh, what's going on? That's weird. Okay, people, now they can hear me. Okay. Streaming is hard. It is, but thank you all for letting me know that I was missing something. Hi, everybody. How you doing? What's going on? Thanks for waiting. Yeah, voice has been achieved. We unlocked the voice. It's happened. It's happened. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are having a festive season. I'm like kind of like halfway between Halloween and Thanksgiving right now. I did my makeup and I didn't realize it was going to be this orange. So I went with the orange. We'll do like actual Christmas colors some other time. But Christmas is like right around the corner. Oh my goodness. And now my hot chocolate is cold. I love room temperature hot chocolate. It's my favorite. Oh, there should be background music. I've turned it up just a slight bit right now. Let me know if that's like a good volume or too quiet or what. I'm gonna get the Q&A set up here. Oh, and I also need to turn on the bandit camera because for some reason that didn't connect. Ask your questions here. Start Q&A. There you go. So now we have a little white box that is pinned to the top of the chat, as you can see, and that can be a place where you can put your questions. Now, for the grand reveal of the doggo camera. Oh yeah, like I was having, now here's like an example of weird issues I was having that I don't understand, that I can't seem to adjust. For some reason, everything kept changing size while I was trying to edit, and it was making it really hard for me to actually adjust everything to be Christmassy. But thank you so much for the start of the stream gift, Sean. I really appreciate it. We will have a story here from Sean. I am going to make sure that we have the Bandita camera appropriately set up before that. Yeah, I need to adjust that actually, so give me 1 second here. Because that's definitely not in the right spot. Hi, sweet girl. Hello. Are you ready to be on camera? Are you ready for your on-camera moment? Alright, that is... Alright. Alright, I'm gonna see if that worked better. Yes. That is, it's a little sideways still. Why is it a little sideways? I don't know. Why is it a little sideways? I don't understand, but that's fine. It'll be fine for now. Oh my goodness. She's almost as big as my face. Almost as big. And I don't know why it won't let me fix it. I would like to be able to move the camera. Is it? I just have too many things layered in front of it, I think, and it won't let me, like... It's like moving every other stream asset I have. I would like to move the dog camera. Why will it not let me select? This is like what I was going through for like 2 hours before the stream started. Like, why is it doing this? Why won't it let me do this thing? I don't understand. Genuinely, I don't. It's like I can't do anything with this at all. Maybe I just put it on top of absolutely everything, and maybe then I can grab it. No, it literally won't let me move it. This is so weird. I don't understand. I don't have it. Do I have it locked or something? Oh, maybe that's what it is. I think that's what it is. Okay. Ha ha ha. I don't know. Did I do that by accident at some point? I don't know. Anyways, here's doggo camera. Doggo camera. Yay, we did it. Okay. Now there's a mysterious humming noise happening. And then it said something and now went away. Now it came back again. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, alright. It went away again. I know it has to be something connected to like my computer, and I still have not been able to figure out which cord causes the random humming sound. So, can you guys hear that actually? Can you guys hear the humming sound that's like intermittently happening? Because if you guys are hearing it, I would like to fix it. I think it's probably either coming from my microphone or my camera, because it doesn't happen unless I'm streaming. So it has to be one of those two things, I think. You mean size really does matter? 12-point or 14-point lettering? That is, you know what? Yeah. Just added $50 to my Easy Pass account because transportation departments need their holiday travel tolls. Angry noises. That sounds terrible, and I'm sorry. Add amaretto to the Christmas cookie dough or latkes for a tasty touch. Hopefully everyone's having a happy Hanukkah. Amaretto to Christmas cookie dough. That sounds interesting. Yes, and happy Hanukkah to anyone who is celebrating. Okay, we can't hear the humming sound. Is it even the holidays so everything isn't stressful as fuck? That's a great point. That is a fantastic point, and I think you're right on the money. Hi, puppy. Yeah, I'm talking to you, sweetheart. How you doing? It's your big moment. You're on camera. Okay. I can't hear it right now, but it could be because music. Well, that would be excellent if the background music is covering up any humming noises. It only happens very intermittently, so that's part of the problem with troubleshooting it, is it's sometimes there and sometimes not. The blanket is very cozy. I actually made this. Blanket. It's just a fleece blanket that I think I got from Joanne, R.I.P. Joanne Fabrics. But it's just fleece. It's like a fleece tie blanket. It's very warm and cozy. I'm not using it right now because I don't need it this exact minute, but it is the MVP in my house for blankets at the moment. But yes, size does matter. Alright, so I think we've got everything set up finally and put together, so I will get into the usual spiel. So hi, my name's Evie Lupine, and every Friday here on my channel we do a little interactive stream Q&A thingamajig, and I usually put some suggestions for what we can talk about in the title of the live stream. Like, I saw some interesting, I'm not going to call it research, I saw a survey that gave me some interesting ideas about polyamory and monogamy and kink and what people consider to be acceptable under the umbrella of monogamy. I thought it might be interesting to discuss, although I will probably also make a video about it because that kind of thing is also interesting to me. We can also talk about general holiday things, seasonal kink ideas, talking to your family, traveling while kinky, any of those sorts of deals. Like, I want to bring my dom home for Christmas. What do we do? How can we maintain our dynamic while being around our family? Should I tell my parents that I'm in a BDSM relationship? How do I explain my age gap relationship to my parents? Because I'm bringing home my partner and they're 20 years older than I am. These are all things that we can chat about if you would like, or anything else you want to talk about in the general realms of dating, relationships, kink, BDSM, polyamory, pop culture things that are happening. The things that I don't talk about here are, generally speaking, we don't touch on politics, and generally speaking, we don't touch on mental health or medical advice, because I am not a licensed counselor or a therapist or a doctor, and I'm not your doctor or your therapist, so I can't give you advice on how to personally, individually navigate, your specific mental health goings on and also doing kink at the same time. I can sometimes give general advice for doing things like dealing with emotions or with a breakup, and all of the tools that I use for that purpose for myself that I pass along to you do come from mental health and therapy, because they're the ones that have science-based, evidence-based techniques for dealing with those things. So why wouldn't I pass along the things that have actual data behind them, as opposed to, like, I don't know, when I get tired, I go to the store and I buy Oreos and I eat 20 Oreos. Like, that's not good advice. I'm not going to tell you to do that. So we do some science-based things, but if you're like, I did a scene and I'm feeling weird about it afterwards and I'm worried that I hurt myself, what do? I'm going to be like, go to the doctor, because I can't do miracles over the internet. That's all I can really tell you to do. Evie, you look so joyful even without your voice. Thank you. I'm glad I did makeup today. I got some makeup in the mail that I ordered on Black Friday, and it took a whole ass month to get here. I was shocked actually that it arrived. I just had given up. I was like, it got lost in the mail, it's not gonna arrive, but it did show up. Speaking of mental health, I have great news. My therapist told me yesterday that I no longer meet the criteria for BPD diagnosis, and she let me know how proud she was of my progress. Hell yeah! That is great news, Twixley. I'm so proud of you. I know that is a heck of a thing to do, and I am so proud of you and all the work that you have been doing. That is fantastic. Oh my gosh, we love DBT in this house. We love mental health. We love all the things. That's not really my realm of expertise, but when those things do help people in general, I do like to share some of them. Finally catching the stream again today in my cold car while it warms up. Hopefully it gets warm soon. I do not typically invest in like a remote start for my car, but I definitely have had times at this time of year I'm like, I kind of would have been nice to have that, because I park my car outside and it's just in the elements, and so when it gets real cold and stormy and icy here, I'm like, oh, I gotta it's gonna take me like 20 minutes to defrost this windshield. Not the most efficient car if you are hoping to avoid, lots of snow and ice collecting everywhere. But yeah. Actually, now that I've had more of my hot chocolate, it sometimes seems warmer, and I don't know scientifically why that's possible. Maybe just the top part of it was colder, and then I don't know. Maybe it feels a more appropriate temperature. But yeah, okay. So anyways, other important things to know, 18 plus only. So if you are not at least 18, please don't be here, because we talk about adult topics with adults. I'm not qualified to educate minors about any of this stuff, so I don't. And there are other places you can go for more age-appropriate information if you would like. I'm not one of them. I finally reset the Bandita Treat Fund. If you would like to make sure I answer your question right away, you can donate using a super chat or through Streamlabs, and that will contribute to the fund up above, which is adorable, and it is jokingly what provides Bandita with her treats, although she does have pancreatitis, or something. She hasn't been formally diagnosed because my vet is useless, but she meets all the diagnostic criteria I can find for that. So she basically has a very, very limited, no-fat diet because she is old and can't digest fats anymore. So most conventional dog treats she cannot have, but she does get extra pieces of kibble when she's good, and she can still have one kind of dental treat is fine, and that's pretty much it. But if you would like to support the adorable doggo that you see on screen, either one of them, I suppose, because I am also dog. I am also dog. It doesn't look like it. I'm in my human costume right now, but I am. But underneath this is a dog. Man, I would love to be a VTuber. Is it too late to get on the VTuber train? Can I get a VTuber avatar of me as a dog? Is that still possible? I don't know. No politics. That's too bad, because I was going to ask your thoughts on the release of the heavily redacted Epstein files. you know, as a Christmas treat, I will answer that, which is, it's going to be a very boring answer. I haven't seen any of them. I very briefly saw that it was happening on the news, and my default assumption is that they're going to be so heavily redacted as to be, like, completely pointless anyways. But I am of the camp that I am not shocked that powerful people, but especially men, would like to procure sex with young people and minors, because I am a YouTuber. And when you're a YouTuber and you watch other YouTubers and you're in general social media discourse, after about 2 years, you realize that there's a very weird thing that happens to like 75% of the young men that get really popular, like streamers or YouTubers or TikTokers, any of them. If you are a man and you get really popular on social media, like you get a crumb of fame, you get like 100,000 followers on Instagram, something happens. You have to dodge a psychic bullet that for some reason makes you think the first thing you need to do when you're famous, other than buying a Lamborghini, is to message any woman who's following you on social media under the age of 18. Like, something happens where it's like, I could flirt with my fans. I could sext a minor and get away with it, probably. Something happens where you just think you can go on Discord and talk to a 12-year-old. And that happens with, like, the most D-tier, like, no viewers ass, like, YouTubers, TikTokers, like somebody who went viral once, like 3 years ago on TikTok and is, like, not made a hit video since then. Like, that person thinks that, like, oh, well, I'm famous now, so I guess it's time. I'm 25, so now is a good time to start having erotic text messages with 15-year-olds. So, if a fucking YouTuber or TikToker is gonna do that, of course people who are famous are gonna do that. Of course! That's like the least surprising thing ever. So I'm not surprised by it. I don't know what's in there. I'm sure it's horrible. I'm sure it's disgusting. Will anything important happen as a result of those files being released? Probably not. Because the people who are in the photos already knew that they were in the photos. I think there's only a couple people in power that actually care. I'm very cynical. I'm very skeptical. I'm very black pill as far as all that goes. I feel like I have like a dog hair in my face somewhere and I can't find it. I think the only Epstein thing I saw is, I hope an adult, since pictures were released, women with Alita quotes on them. Oh no, that's really bad. Oh no. So creme de menthe. I've not put creme de menthe in hot chocolate. I do, however, have peppermint vodka that I will probably put in this. Should I do that now? I do kind of need to be productive after stream. But I mean, men in the 50s used to have like a bunch of whiskey in the office by lunchtime. So like, I could probably still be productive and have have a little booze in my hot chocolate as a treat. My plan is to make an eggnog so boozy my family recreates the eggnog riots of 1826. I think for that you should look at the Martha Stewart recipe. Legend has told me that the Martha Stewart eggnog recipe is basically just straight liquor, so you should love that one. I've never had creme de menthe. Yeah, peppermint vodka is fine. Just pour in a shot, you'd be fine. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm somebody who's like drunk on like 3 shots, so I do need to be a little careful. But I will do that. You know what? Fuck it. It's fine. We will now have a responsible adult beverage stream. Trick those guys in the 40s and 50s did was they watered down the booze a lot. Oh, did they? I mean, I feel like they were always drinking like Bloody Marys and stuff, so are those watered down? Or maybe they just, like, the stuff that they got already was watered down, or they just put a bunch of ice in it. Fame does seem to embolden the worst kinds of people who even get just a taste of it. Yeah, it's almost like there's, like, multiple famous authors who have, like, really well-respected books talking about what happens to your brain when you have a lot of money or are famous. and how crazy you end up going as a result of that. Like, I actually am grateful I am not a YouTuber that's made like millions and millions of dollars. Like, if I could make just $1 million, I think I'd be fine. Like, that'd be cool. But but I don't want to be like a multi-millionaire, heaven forbid a billionaire, because I think it just destroys your brain. Like, I legitimately think if you have that much money, especially if you get it really quickly all at once so you don't come from money, that I think your brain, like, you end up being like Zuckerberg. And I don't want to be like Zuckerberg. I don't want to be like Elon Musk. They're all cringe, and even Bezos, I don't want to be like him. There's not a single person who has multiple millions of dollars that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind being like them if I happen to go completely insane with money and power. Like, there's not a single one. And I'm like, oh, that's respectable. Also, Bandita is going on her blanket mountain, which is her favorite spot to be in the entire house, in the entire world. That is her spot. I cannot even use that side of the couch. It's just the bandit side of the couch. Churchill had drank multiple highballs a day, but it turned out each one only had like half a shot and the whole rest of it was a glass of soda. That's amazing. My grandfather had Sprite with just a splash of gin when he would drink at work events. That sounds really smart. We're going to become Sigma females from 1950s business spheres for this Christmas season. We truly are. We truly, truly are. The higher you go, the more detached from reality you become. That is exactly the problem. Yeah, any weaknesses or strengths you have will be exacerbated by the money you have. Which is like, it's no... I'm so sorry, microphone. It's not even just money. Like, a lot of the people I'm thinking of that, like, have decided to start, like, interacting with young people on the internet because they like got fame, they don't even make money. It's like a lot of them, they get like minor like celebrity status, like Twitch or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or somewhere. They might, especially if it's just TikTok, they might not even be making any money off of it. Like, a lot of the famous TikTokers, like D-tier famous, I'm not talking about like I don't know, the D'Amelio sisters or something, like the people who made bank like with ads, but people who are just like, they get like 10,000 followers, 50,000 followers, like people that are like on barely anybody's radar, but like technically they've probably made like a couple $1,000s off of Twitch or off of TikTok or something, and they're still doing it. So it's like just a taste, and they're like, I'm gonna cash that in. Talking to a 15-year-old. No. It's just, I guess is that just like a secret vice? I think my theory is it gets beamed into your brain. Like, you have to dodge a psychic attack when you get over 10,000 subscribers on a platform. And if you miss the roll, that's what happens to your brain. It's about power over others, money just one way to have power. I think that's a probably more accurate description, because it's about like the influence of the phrase influencer, which you can have even with like on a niche area, you can have with like not that big of a following. So yeah, if you're like, I don't know what like niche stuff TikTok men get famous for. Anyways, I'm about to put some booze in my hot chocolate, I guess, because that's what we voted for. I'll probably do boozy hot chocolate when we do the movie night, too. Do I have enough milk to make that happen? I think I do. We'll find out. Okay. I am going to BRB real quick so I can put this in the microwave and not subject you all to microwave noises. So I'll be back in like 2 minutes. We'll see. All right, we're back. I've also moved the Bandita camera so you can see her up. You can see her upon her throne a little bit better, and you also, you get to see my coffee table. Exciting! I've now added booze to the chocolate off stream because I don't know if showing liquor on camera is against YouTube TOS. So here we go. But I'm back. I have hot chocolate. I can only taste the peppermint flavor, which means it's dangerous. Yeah, surprise, we're back. Oh, I love that dog so much. She's so cute. We love her. All right. So getting back into things, again, I will remind you all, if you have a question, you can either put it in the chat or you can use the tab up above that says ask your question here in white, and that will basically put your question into a special question queue that will set it aside for me to read, so you don't have to worry about like too much time going by. It'll save it for the whole duration of the stream. If you have not asked a question yet, I highly recommend putting it in there. You can also put it into the chat as well if you would like, but that is the best way to make sure I answer it. However, if you do put it in that white box, other people in the chat won't be able to see it, so you won't be able to get feedback from other people in the community if you want that. But just so you know. Yeah. I'm newer here. Are there commands we have access to, like weather or duel? I am very not hip to streamer culture stuff like that. So no, but I would love to know what those things are. What would a weather command do? What would a duel command do? Tell me more, and maybe I will add that. It definitely isn't against TOS. There are channels specifically dedicated to liquor. Oh, I just didn't know for like live streams if that counts as like encouraging reckless behavior or something. Like streaming while riding in a car or driving a car. But I've definitely wanted to experiment with commands. I just feel like YouTube streams are definitely different than Twitch. I feel like YouTube specifically doesn't have like a command or like emote culture to it, unless I'm just not watching the right people. But like YouTube and other streaming platforms, very different in regards to like how people interact in chats. Yeah. But maybe that's a thing in other people's channels. Yeah, welcome back. Okay, all right, so let's actually do, Sean has a story for us. Our correspondent Sean has a story, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up. I'm gonna log in and find it, and then we will get into some questions. Always have to like brace myself. Oh. Why were all these... There's a heavy rain, man. What is going on? Apparently everything I was thinking about going to in California is like not happening because of rain, because out of California can't handle rain, I guess? Okay. Weird. All right. Anyways, I have to look into that later. Like 4 things I was thinking about going to were getting canceled. Anyways, Sean says, Club Awakening was last Saturday and I was one of 2 practice bottoms. The night started off slow with newbie orientation and answering questions. It was slow going in the beginning, and I met a newbie who was very nervous to try anything. I spoke with her several times throughout the night and encouraged her how to negotiate with the tasting booth tops to get the experience she was looking for. In the end, I explained to her the number system that she could use with the tops as far as the power of impact play goes. Very good note. Definitely with newbie people, I think they can be really worried about like, what if they go too hard? What if I can't handle it? It's kind of like being anxious about getting a tattoo, like, what if it's too painful? What if I can't handle it? What if it really sucks? And it's like, well, maybe not as much with tattooing, but with impact play, like you can tell someone to start at like a 1 or a 2, or like just to very lightly touch you. And if they're a good top, some toys you can't really do this with as easily, like in order to create a pain response, at least. Like I think most, like even if you're using like a cane, I don't really have like a good cane, but let's use a pen, right? Like if you're using a cane, right, like you can like, you know, like you can just like gently land it across their body and like rub it back and forth, you know, and that's like a 0. That's like you're just learning what it feels like to have skin contact with the instrument. And then you can get up into like, all right, we're gonna very little tap, and then more 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 and more and more, and suddenly you're right, you know. I'm not going to continue that because I like the knuckles on my hand, but you get the idea. You can scale things up or scale things back down if you need to. Oh, your iPhone doesn't have a white box to type into? Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, I don't know what it looks like for iPhone. Is there, if you're on iPhone, can you see a Q&A, like a pinned Q&A thing at all? That's concerning. Does that mean some people can't use it? Anyways, getting back into the rest of Sean's story, she eventually got the nerve up to go and try the Crops, Canes, and Paddles booth. While she was with the booth top, I stayed close to watch her as her mini session went on in case she had any nonverbal distress cues the top couldn't see. Afterwards, she seemed a little out of sorts and unsteady, so I took her over to one of the couches and asked her to sit down. I asked her if she had any water or a snack after her session at the last tasting booth, and she said no, so I asked her if she would like some. I got her a cookie and a bottle of water and suggested that she should rest for a bit before she tried anything else, which she thanked me for later, saying it made her feel better. Yes, definitely a good idea, even with tastings. Take breaks in between, get your water, get your bearings, kind of process what happened. It can be tempting to just run around and do as many of them as possible, like back to back to back, but even if you think you're handling it well, don't overdo it. Take your time, take some space to process, absolutely. Most of my night was spent at the flogging booth, where the booth top used me to both attract people to the tasting booth because they consider me a heavy bottom, especially when it comes to flogging and most impact play. He also demonstrated techniques to people learning on me, not holding back. Obviously, the people learning tried their techniques on me as well. Okay, yeah, so like getting both being like, step right up, see what's happening at the flogging booth, and then also like people getting to practice flogging skills on you, which is fantastic. I'm so grateful for our practice bottoms and people who let us do that, because that is one of the big issues with being a new top or a new dom in the kink community. Is it's like, you know, entry-level job requires 2 years of experience sort of deal, where it can be really hard to break in, and people even experienced S-types and bottoms, and probably even more so than inexperienced people, are going to be reluctant to play with you because you don't know what you're doing yet, you're still learning, you might not be that serious about kink, they don't know what your motivations are, and they also don't know what your real skill level is. And frankly, there are a lot of people who will lie. Just lie. They lie about how many years they've been doing kink for, what types of kinks they have knowledge in, and they do that in order to get access to people, and that happens enough times to enough people to where they just like don't believe folks by default. And then on top of that, if you do say that you're brand new, they're going to be like, absolutely not, like, no, maybe later, buddy. And so getting a way to play in public and show people that are there that you are practicing and you're taking this seriously, but then also literally just being able to practice, so it's both good for the social aspect as well as the actual physical practice part with a live human being, because practicing on pillows is great, but it's not everything. It's not going to teach you everything, and getting actual feedback, which you, at least yet, cannot get from a pillow, is critical. So thank you so much for that. Continuing on, I was also able to answer some questions a person re-entering the lifestyle had about tonight's charity auction. As a side note, the auction has been renamed from the Charity Slave Auction to the Charity Sub Dom Auction. Unfortunately, my dungeon is about 90 minutes one way, or 90 miles one way from where I live. I decided not to attend the event tonight. All in all, I had a great time meeting new people, answering questions, as well as seeing my friends. It is surprising how many many people don't understand that a large portion of a practice body's responsibilities are answering questions as well as acting as extra eyes for the DM. I will keep you guys updated with my further adventures. Livestream correspondent Sean signing off. Thank you, Sean. We love your adventures, and yes, I'm planning on doing a video. It's on like the top of my list. I am planning on doing a video actually about like slave auctions and meat racks and things like that, because it is something that, especially let's say name-wise, is very provocative for people. It has a lot of strong imagery associated with it, and people tend to have feelings about the term, but I do see that we are more and more moving away from that terminology into things like just calling it a charity auction or a live auction or a dom sub auction or some variation where we're not using both the words slave and auction together in a sentence, because, you know, especially if you are in America, like we did have actual slave auctions. That was a thing that happened. We did really used to sell people, not as a fun consensual kink thing, but actual chattel slavery. And so because that history is right there, a lot of people don't want to either associate BDSM with that or potentially like trigger some intergenerational trauma stuff with using terminology that is obviously not going to feel fun and sexy to everyone that might want to participate in an event like that. But generally speaking, a lot of the events that are charities are like a lot of the events that are auctions are also charities. Like I've seen many of them done specifically in the leather community, usually for S-types. Sometimes also DOMs will auction off their topping abilities or their skill set too, but it's almost always for a fundraiser, whether that be for like a travel fund, for title holders, or for raising money for, you know, the local LGBT center, or for, you know, maybe a specific person in the community, like maybe, you know, a really long-standing member, you know, maybe they come down with cancer, or they have a sick family member, they lose work, you know, they put on an auction or some kind of fundraiser to give back. And I think that's something that not a lot of people know about kink as a community that I wish more people knew about. Like, I know, like, I sometimes think about this is like, if I was getting interviewed and somebody asked me like, what would you want to tell people about BDSM that you like wouldn't expect them to know, or that it's like a misconception? I think people think about BDSM in this very atomized way where it's like individual people in their bedrooms, in relationships, doing stuff, and that can be a site for recreating patriarchy and all this mumbo jumbo. But when you're looking at kink as a community, like there really is a community aspect there that is largely missing from so much of modern society, whether that's like actual clubs people go to, or things like church, even like working in an in-person office. Like office culture and socialization has changed so much because of the internet and phones that people don't, it's basically just like, I don't know, like church and BDSM, basically the only two that are really left, and even those have really changed a lot. So the kink community really being an in-person community that does give back, that does fundraisers, that does support, you know, our queer brothers and sisters and our trans brothers and sisters and them bees, like we really do. And I wish that people knew about that, because it's so hard for me to hold in my mind both this idea that like, BDSM is this nasty, awful thing that perpetuates the patriarchy, that puts women down, and then also knowing that both historically and in the modern day, there's so much good that gets done in the BDSM community. Like we fundraise so much, we help people so much, we have scholarship funds, like more so than I've seen for pretty much any other event. For kink, I will see people, you know, have like inclusive tiered pricing structures, you know, do scholarship funds for specifically minority groups or people that might not have the ability to pay for tickets. And it's not questions, it's not based on questions, it's not like you get to self-attest, I qualify for getting the cheaper ticket or applying for the scholarship fund or something else. And you know, like I don't know very many places that do that, you know, so it's just nice to see. don't know if the Portland community would ever get close to an auction, despite the name, which is odd. It's a classic fundraising model. You know, my understanding is the Portland Leather Alliance. It's sort of like a leather alliance in name only. There's like Bad Girls of PDX. There's some other leather branches that have roots in Portland, have branches in Portland, or just organizations that are affiliated with leather in Portland, and they would probably be the most likely to do something like that. But I can't think of like a big event where that would happen. But I would love to see it. When you first open the stream on an iPhone, it shows the question bar, but it disappears quickly. Oh, that's very interesting. Does that happen if I go on my phone? I don't have an iPhone. I have an Android. But I obviously have like a streamer window on my computer. And I would feel bad if I'm like directing people to a place to ask questions and it's not working as intended. So let me go over here and see my own live stream. Oh, Loving BDSM is also streaming. They're also streaming. Good to see it. Okay. Oh no, I can see it. Can I ask? How does it look when I... Okay. Hi, just asking a practice question. Let's see what happens if I do that. Okay, again, it tells you question sound. Okay, so it does actually work. It is functional, but I'm sorry to the Apple people. You can definitely still put a question in the regular chat. You don't have to use the question feature. It just means that it's more likely I'm going to see your question, because YouTube, when you get enough messages, it like erases like the past history of the live stream. And so that can make it harder to keep up with like older questions I haven't gotten to yet as the stream goes on. Just FYI. Just so you know. All right. So I think that is what I wanted to talk about with that. Speaking of questions, I will scroll up now and we'll get to some questions. I will see how the Q&A feature is going. I'm going to just make sure I didn't miss anything from earlier in the chat, because I want to make sure that those are not being lost, because I know that it took me a little bit to get everything together today. Ooh, I bought a delicious looking chocolate and candy cane scone. Might be having it for dinner. That sounds like a dinner of champions. Delicious. I've already lost the beginning of the chat, because now it's not showing me anything from like before when I came back after making my my cocoa boozy. So if you asked a question the first like half an hour of the stream, I am sorry, but you will probably need to re-ask it or put it in the question feature, because I apparently have already lost it. My Android, let me type in the white box. The box does respond to my active styles. Anyone else with that problem? I don't know. Again, if you're having trouble with it, you can still put things in the regular chat. This is like a newer YouTube feature. They've been doing it for the last like 2 months or so, but it's definitely like not perfect yet. And you can also, and you probably should, submit like a bug report or some kind of thing to YouTube to let them know that you're having trouble with like the functionality of the Q&A feature. FYI. Sensory caning versus punitive caning. That's not phrased as a question, so I don't know what to do with that. Does that mean, can you talk about the differences between sensory caning and punitive caning? Or are you talking about like the example with the like you can do tap 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 sensual, you know, the cane skin contact versus like I'm trying to make you feel like you're in a prison in Singapore type stuff? If a scene results in permanent physical injury despite both parties following all protocols, where does the moral and legal responsibility lie? Okay, so I'm gonna entirely leave the legal question out of it. I have taken multiple classes about like BDSM in the law or like the legality of BDSM, and the answer is that it depends on your local jurisdiction. So depending on if you're in, you know, the UK, Australia, Canada, America, Germany, That's going to vary. If you're in the US, it's going to depend on what state you're in as well. So I cannot give, even if I was a lawyer, even if I like had passed the bar in California, I cannot give you a definitive answer across the board of like, this is the law about BDSM and injury responsibility. I'm not an injury attorney. Should probably ask if you're curious personally on your own, you know, level. Go talk to a professional in your area that has passed the bar in your state or wherever it is that you live or your country's equivalent thereof. But I will say on the moral responsibility part, what I consider to be somebody's obligation for engaging in BDSM. So you have a permanent injury, and you say all protocols. I'm going to assume that means essentially you did everything as negotiated for. Consent was as informed as it could be. So either something happened that neither one of you were anticipating, so it was like an act of God type of thing, or something happened that you were anticipating and you were prepared for that thing to happen, right? So like, let's say, classic example of this, that's probably the most common thing that somebody will run into, is nerve damage following rope bondage. And nerve damage is in particular annoying because there's not really any good treatments for it. Like, there's not a surgery you can do to like fix the nerve injury. There's not like, you know, just like, you know, you put your arm in a cast for a month and then you're done. Like, it can be permanent, but it can be anywhere from, you know, semi-permanent's around for like a couple of months to a couple of years, and it randomly goes away on its own to like a lifetime. You don't really know what the outcome of getting that nerve injury is, and it can impact your life. Like, even if you only have like a partial nerve injury, and maybe it impacts your ability to use like, you know, your pinky and your ring finger on one hand, but you know, you're a secretary, maybe you write a lot for work, or you have to use that hand for work quite a bit, but now you've lost like some of the sensation in the hand. You can't type it, or you would need accommodations to make that possible. I think the moral responsibility is atop of that happens, just like, again, assuming, you know, you did everything as you negotiated for, and consent was as informed as it could possibly be. You know, it just sometimes these things happen. The moral responsibility, I would say, would be number one across the board, because it's free. Be there emotionally to support the partner that's experiencing the nerve injury. Like, if you can, I would, you know, volunteer to be a sounding board, volunteer to help them find medical providers. Big part of this too is, does your partner have health insurance? That's going to be a big question. Now, with nerve stuff, because there's not really a lot of treatments for it anyways, you might not really be seeing a doctor that much anyways, but there might be other things that you would pay for to assist with this. Like, maybe, again, you need some kind of assistive device. Maybe you, like, I don't know, I don't even know this would be a thing. Maybe you need to pay for, like, some kind of like finger splint thing. Maybe it's something you could get that at least would alleviate making the problem worse, or might make it more comfortable in the moment or something. If it's not super expensive, I would just volunteer to pay for that, especially if your partner does not have any kind of health insurance. Like, you know, hey, I'm sure this happened. Like, you know, you need a new special kind of keyboard. You need a finger splint. Like, I'll just take care of it, no problem. If it's something where we're talking about, you know, they don't have health insurance, maybe you don't have great health insurance either, maybe they need ongoing medical procedures, like it's not a nerve thing, it's like, oh, I'm gonna need to get like a series of surgeries over the next couple of years, and if you were just paying out of pocket, it would be like hundreds of thousands of dollars to get them done. If it's not something that you caused by your own negligence, I would say you're not necessarily morally obligated to 100% pay for that, but I would say it is at least your obligation to help with like surgery recovery, help with like, you know, navigating the medical system. If you have some means of paying, like volunteering to like pay what you can. Again, if this is like you were negligent, you did something wrong, you lied about your experience level, you did something that was outside of the scope of what you negotiated for and that caused an injury, if you fucked up in some way, completely different ballpark. But if we're saying this is just an act of God, we all did our best here, no one's at fault for anything, I would volunteer to help where you can. If you have some means of help, offering that. But I think the emotional and mental support, it doesn't matter more than the financial, but like, I think being there and showing that you're not running away is important, even if you maybe can't provide financially. But this is also part of why I tell people, like, if you're going to be doing something that's like high risk for a medical situation occurring, like nerve damage, like breaking something, spraining something, some other kind of injury that might happen as well as the play that you're doing, like, you got to figure things out, especially if you're American, with insurance, with if you can financially afford either the loss of work or the surgeries you might need, the procedures, going to doctor's visits, medication. Like, that is one of the risks. And if your partner who's a bottom, like, they can't pay for their medication, they can't pay for their procedures, offer to help them fundraise, offer to help them in what ways you can. But that is part of the risk the bottom is taking on, choosing to engage in risky play, is that they might be in a position where, because of an injury they've experienced that they opted into, that they knew was a possibility, they might lose work, they might lose income, they might lose all these things. So that's just something I think that is like, be helpful, be kind, be supportive. But, unless we're talking about something where you're like actually at fault for something, I don't think you necessarily have a moral obligation there, if that makes sense. Oh, thank you, Lexi. Lexi and Aaron, thank you. Hope you all are doing well. Good to hear from you. Had a bit of trouble getting the stream set up today. Your well wishes are appreciated. But yeah, that is essentially my thoughts about the moral part of it. But also, so much of that depends, like, are you in a relationship? How long have you known each other? Is this like pickup play that happened at like a convention, you like never see each other again? Like, I think the level of obligation you have also some of it depends on like the nature of your relationship. Like, if it's a partner you've been with for like 4 years, I would imagine you would be more physically present to help more than like one person you did a pickup play scene with at like a dungeon that you like barely knew the name of. But yeah, it's a tough one. But that's what I would do. I think situations like these are so complicated, and I think if this is a concern that you have, like if you're worried about like being on the hook for something, if you're worried about injuring someone, if you're worried about being injured by someone and losing work, like let's say, you're a freelance artist and I don't know, you like crochet little like mini figurines that you sell on Etsy, and you like have to be able to use like both your hands to like operate your shop and like crochet. I actually don't know for crochet if you need both your hands, but whatever. Let's just say that you do for the sake of this example. Like if in like, you're barely making ends meet, you don't have any savings, rent is really expensive, you barely make it every month. If you absolutely cannot afford to lose out on work, I think that should be part of your calculus for the types of scenes that you're choosing to engage in. Like, if that was me, like if my whole livelihood, and this is actually because my job is on my computer and I have to be able to type, I have to be able to use a keyboard. Part of the reason why I don't do TKs is because it's like, I'm self-employed. I don't have like, I can't take like medical leave off of work for like a couple of weeks. Like I can't afford to like not be writing, not be making videos for however long it would take to heal from a nerve injury, because that can be anywhere from like a couple of days to like years. Like I can't afford to take an unknown amount of time off of my business. So because of that, and I don't have like health, like I don't have good health insurance because I'm self-employed. So like because of that, I don't do things like TKs, because that elevates the risk of getting that type of nerve injury above what's acceptable to me. knowing the situation that I'm in. But if you're somebody where like you have to be able to work with your hands, you know, you're self-employed, anything like that, or maybe you just have crappy health insurance, or your employment situation is really precarious, so it's hard to get time off of work for medical stuff, whatever, then I think, especially if you're like, I don't know, maybe you have to be able to stay employed because you have another medication that you take that would not be covered or would be impossibly expensive without the insurance that you're getting through your current employment. Like, calculate that into your risk profile. Talk about that when you're negotiating for like higher risk levels of play. You don't have to be specific about exactly what it is, but you can say like, you know, hey, you know, because if you want to, you don't even have to really give a reason, but I think sometimes it can be helpful to lay it out like, hey, you know, I'm self-employed, my insurance isn't great, and so because of that, like, I don't do these higher risk forms of play, or I don't tie this way because I can't lose, like, there's no world in which I can afford to like lose the function of like part of one of my hands. Or like, maybe you're like an opera singer and you don't give a fuck because like I don't have to use my whole hand to be an opera singer. Like, I'll be fine. Like, you know, you might have a job where that doesn't matter, or you might have a job where it matters a lot. Also, yeah, you can just do suspensions with lesser risks. A great example of that is just using a climbing harness. Yeah, it's like there are alternatives, and part of giving more disclosure with your risk setup and what you're willing to budget for is it gives room in the conversation to be more specific about, oh, okay, so if that's the kind of risk that you're avoiding, and this is the reason why, here are some other things that we should talk about maybe including or not. Like, it's one thing to say that like, oh, I don't do TKs because like, I hate the sensation. Okay, well, here's some other ties that give it similar, you know, level of risk, but have a totally different sensation to them. Whereas if your reason for not doing a certain thing is like, I just can't take the nerve damage risk, then it's like, okay, then we shouldn't also do this, this, and this, because that maybe has a lesser risk than those things, but it is up there compared to other alternatives. So here's what we're working with. It just gives you more ways to talk about things accurately and really understand what you're looking to get out of a scene, and hopefully minimize your risk in a way that you are okay with the outcome of. Alrighty. Yeah, see you later, Lexi. Hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully driving and everything goes safe. Not sure how the weather is out where you're at, but good luck. Talk to you later. When the community tries to make kink, quote, palatable for the mainstream to avoid persecution, do they inadvertently throw fringe or extreme, both in air quotes, practitioners under the bus? Yes. The simple answer to that is yes. I think you see that happening with any marginalized community. You see it happen in the queer community. You see it happen with trans people. Like, you know, it's the Blair White throwing non-binary people under the bus phenomenon. It's, you know, I don't know, cis white gay men throwing the more like flamboyant gays under the bus. You know, oh, we all want to, you know, we're throwing the circuit party gays under the bus, you know, because we want to paint an image of gay people being just like you, and we all want a suburban house with 2 bedrooms, we want to have 1.5 kids, and we want, you know, to both work in finance, or like, you know, we want the white picket life, right? And whenever a group is trying to reach mainstream acceptability, there is always a risk, and in fact probably even always an action that results in the more fringe members or less socially acceptable members getting tossed out of the window, being thrown under the bus, being ignored, being silenced, because people believe that is necessary to get social acceptance. Arguably, it's not necessary to actually get social acceptance, but a lot of people actually act like it is. It just depends. I'm trying to think of like specific examples where that's happened in kink, because I think kink is like so, like, it's still so outside of mainstream discourse, but it's weird because there is part of it that is like kind of mainstream. Like you get like the 50 Shades of Grey kind of like quote unquote mommy porn, you know, fan fiction, erotica, you know, book talk, spicy novels. Like there's a segment of maybe not even kink, but let's say like kink adjacent things that have achieved a level of social acceptability, but they're not really reflective of the whole culture, and the acceptance of those things did not necessarily require throwing other aspects of kink under the bus. Now, in discourse around those things, I think people will throw stuff under the bus of like, you know, my kink is acceptable, but yours isn't, right? Yours is too extreme. I would say you maybe see this the most with like high level or like extreme power exchange, where people say, oh, well, you know, playing around in the bedroom occasionally is fine, but like total power exchange is like way too far. You should never give up that level of power to a man, especially if you're talking about like cishet power exchange. And it just happens, and it's frustrating and it's annoying. But yeah, people do definitely throw other kinks under the bus. You also see this maybe with like ABDL too, I would say. But that's not even necessarily because people are trying to get mainstream social acceptance. I think people are just generally like, they don't know what to make of ABDL, and so they just assume it's a bad thing without any kind of actual research. As far as how to prevent that kind of thing from happening, I don't know. I think, like, maybe because we're a community that encourages acceptance and, like, by our nature is very diverse, I think that there's going to be factions that will attempt to throw other kinks under the bus for acceptability. But one, I think we're so far away from that even happening in the first place to where it's not that much of a relevant concern. But also, when we do get to that point, when we are trying to get acceptance, like, I don't know if a vanilla person would really understand the difference between somebody who has, like, a latex fetish and ABDL and pet play and, like, total power exchange. Like, it's all just kind of weird. Like, I think there's, like, 2 levels, but I don't think there's that much separation. There's sort of like understandable weird and then like super weird. Like understandable weird is like wearing a collar in the bedroom with your otherwise vanilla boyfriend on your anniversary. Like, okay, really, really low level, almost basically not kink stuff. Or like, I don't know, like sloppy, deep throaty, painful blowjobs. Like maybe that's like, okay, that's like close enough to what like vanilla people are doing anyways to where like, okay, we can accept that. But everything beyond that point is just like all weird. Like okay, you like are like furries and pet play and just everything is so out there. Like they don't know what to make of it at all. So I think we actually have a pretty good potential to eventually get some level of acceptance that mainly relies on people not knowing everything that like counts as being a kink or part of BDSM. Or like, we don't have to individually vet every single potential kink for social acceptance as long as the whole of it more or less gets accepted, right? Like with, I don't know, like increasing acceptability for certain vanilla sex acts, right? Like the wider acceptance of, I don't know, hookup culture. Like that might inadvertently lead to acceptance of other things that are not in as much of the forefront because they kind of get slipped in as a package deal without people realizing it's there. So maybe that's hookup culture and like, I don't know, heterosexual anal sex, like getting more accepted, or like sex without condoms, or something along those lines, where I don't know if those two are really, like, I'm not giving those as literal examples, this is just like theoretically how this kind of thing could happen. But it is an interesting question because I don't know, actually. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, good question though. Very interesting question. Okay, I'm going to pop back over and look at some of the questions from the question box. Now is a great time to ask your question already because the stream is just flying by today. Oh my goodness. I have just stopped and now I can very slightly feel the booze. Moving truck outside? For a second I thought a fire alarm was going off and I was about to have a panic attack. Like, I'm not even kidding you, I actually like mentally shut down at fire alarms and like alarms like that. I cannot handle them. It destroys my brain. But I think that was just a truck backing up, so we're okay. But getting into some more questions. If someone enjoys causing pain, even consensually, where is the line between a healthy outlet and a personality trait that would be considered alarming in any other context? Ooh, that's a complicated one. Where's the line between a healthy outlet and a personality trait that would be considered? So, like, essentially, what's the line between, like, unhealthy sadism, serial killer type stuff, and, like, or maybe not even that, but kind of, like, in that realm of how people would think about it, and, like, consensual kink stuff. I mean, I think number one is already kind of in the question, which is, like, consent. Like, that is how things like the DSM separate between clinical sadism and everyday sadism. Like, clinical sadism means that you are actively disregarding and do not care about the consent of the people that you are perpetuating hurt and harm against. Whereas people that are participating in a healthier form of sadism do consider consent. Consent is primary in their interactions with other people. Where I think this can get a little fuzzy, and is actually an idea that I'm going to explore in a video that I'm creating soon, is like sadism fantasies versus reality. I think this is why a lot of people get like freaked out if they discover that they're a sadist and that they're a top and that they want to do these things to other people. You're branching over here, and I'm just sure you aren't neurodivergent. I mean, I definitely am neurodivergent. I just don't seem to meet any of the diagnosis criteria for any one of them individually, so I don't know. But other than the anxiety part, but yeah, there's actually more of like a trauma response thing to the alarm specifically. Yeah, anyways, it's neurodivergent, unsure what kind. And neurodivergent otherwise specified, if that's a diagnosis label I can give myself. But, like with sadism and like fantasies, a lot of people that have sadistic fantasies, like in their fantasy landscape, like with most fantasies people have, like consent is not something that a lot of people think about. Like it's sort of implied by the experience in your brain that like, oh, well, like the person I'm having sex with is like saying yes, but like I didn't like mentally think about the part leading up to the sex where we sat on the couch and I like put my hand on their thigh and then said, hey, do you want to move to the bedroom? Like that part wasn't part of the fantasy. For some people it is, but for most people, by the fact it's a fantasy, consent is implied, or that it's like, maybe even if not consent, it's like permissible in some way. I think there is a distinction between hand waving that away in a fantasy context and like explicitly wanting to do something where the person is not consenting on any level. Not like CNC, not blanket consent, no consent of any flavor, even the complicated ones is there. Like specifically getting off to like, I want to hurt someone and I want them to not want it ever at all. And that's what I like. I think that's when it gets concerning. But even that, I think as a fantasy, it depends on how you want to act on it. Because you can have those kinds of fantasies and realize, oh, well, like, I might like that kind of thing as an idea, but like in real life, I don't want to actually treat somebody that way. Like, I know that consent is important. That's how I would act towards my partners. That's how I want to conduct myself. And like, if you have strong values and you do value consent and you act within those values and principles, then like I'm not overly worried about that. But I think also if there are any questions, like that's something you work out with the therapist. But I think the bold, clear line is obviously consent. I think there are some studies about this, and I don't remember the name. It's something along the lines of like, you know, everyday sadism or like pro-social sadism versus like clinical sadism. And one, there are differences in personality characteristics between different types of sadists. And there are differences in how people relate to the people that they are, I don't know, perpetuating actions against or playing with or doing things with, or their fantasy landscapes are different. So there are differences. But I think if I was interacting with someone, how would I suss out for myself, like, oh, is this somebody who's like a concerning type of sadist to me? That would be, let me think about that actually for a second. Well, in some cases you talk about the consent a day ahead and then iron out some terms. That definitely happens. Yeah, for sure. I met someone who got off on violating consent and then gaslighting the person afterwards, not as a fantasy. That's concerning. That is concerning. I have also met people, not that exact fantasy, but kind of similarly, were into the idea of being able to talk someone into doing something that they didn't previously consent to, like setting a boundary and then like talking someone into doing something. But they wanted to play with that idea more than like actually do it for real. Like they realized that it was a fantasy, that if they did it like straight as a fantasy, like it would not be acceptable and they wouldn't want to be that person. And so they like were trying to find ways to like act that out in a way that was like really okay. Impulse control capability, not just the ability to full stop and not find justifications to support bad harm. I think that's a great thing. I would definitely put that on my list of like, how compulsive is the behavior? Like how much control do you feel like you have over this? Again, huge difference between I'm doing this, you know, when my partner says yes to do it, and like we negotiate things, we talk about stuff ahead of time, or we have some kind of maybe elaborate, like a consent type of deal. Like, can you stop the behavior? Or do you do it impulsively without any kind of planning first, without talking about it first, if that's your default? Can you walk away from it? Can you stop yourself in the moment? If somebody says no, can you stop? That's definitely a really big one. Impulse control, definitely huge. I would also say for me, like, what is your relationship to how you feel about your sadism? Not because I think that that is always an accurate assessment, but because I think people's self-perception matters for their behavior. Like this is similar, this is a weird analogy, but it is kind of similar to people like how they think about porn addiction. Like porn addiction becomes more real the more that you believe it is real, or the more that you have values that tell you that porn addiction should exist and that porn or masturbation is shameful and bad. Like the guiltier you feel about it, the more you tell yourself that you can't help yourself, that it's compulsive, and that you have a problematic relationship to it. And that kind of causes you to have a more problematic relationship to it because of your self-perception of your own ability to like handle the thing. Whereas if you understand, or you have a different set of values or whatever, where you're like, masturbation is just kind of part of life. Like, you know, sometimes on the weekends I look at stuff and whatever. I don't know how often people normally look at things. I'm not sure what the data says, but as an example, you know, on Fridays after work, yeah, I love looking at porn and whatever, I don't know. And very like, you know, they don't look at it compulsively. They're not like checking it like at the office all the time because they can't help themselves. It's not destroying their relationships. They're not pulling it out at inappropriate times. Like they understand it as a tool that they're using for certain things, and they understand what they're engaging in and why they're engaging with it, and they have control over it. Same thing with like sadism and kink. Okay, do you feel like you actually have control over this? Can you really stop? How do you relate to your sadism? Like, do you feel like it's something that you can't help yourself and you're like desperately looking for a way to like, you know, get it out? Or do you feel like, oh, this is like a cool thing I can play with sometimes, right? So like self-perception of your own inner landscape, I think, is really important. Yeah, I view the fantasy thing as something like violent games or enjoying other types of vicariously cruel media. It's fine if you never want to do it unsimulated IRL. Yeah, I mean, that's like exactly right. It's like there's people who like love horror movies, but they're not gonna like try to recreate the Saw films. Like, you can enjoy media or enjoy ideas or concepts that really wanting to do them in real life. Like, there's lots of people, like, do women who love true crime want to be axe murdered? Like, no, there's something about the idea that's interesting and that they like playing around with, but it doesn't mean that they actually want to be kidnapped, you know? To what extent is kink a healthy outlet for primal human aggression that modern society has suppressed? And to what extent is it just a modern construction? That's a very big question. I think that does kind of follow along with what we were saying. But yeah, I think to wrap up my thoughts about like evaluating kind of somebody else's relationship to sadism, consent, impulsivity, self-perception, I would say like trying to get a read on their general empathy level, I think is important. Like, I think an easy counterbalance to sadism is like a higher level of empathy, or even just ability to act in an empathetic way. Like, are you the kind of person where you're gonna like drop off the face of the earth and not get in touch with me after a scene? Or like, do you care? Do you want to know my experience? Do you want to know my motivations? Like, how invested are you in me as a person? Do you see me as a tool, as a mere outlet for your desires? Or do you see this as like a two-way street, a mutual thing, a team thing? And I feel more comfortable with somebody who sees things as a mutual two-way thing outside of just like merely an outlet for their desires. Now, if we're talking about a long-term partnership, and we're playing together and we're doing stuff together, I think that there's more leeway to have individual experiences that are more selfish, where you can have a partner that is just using you and like is doing something selfishly. But as like a one-off scene where we like don't otherwise have any rapport established, like you should treat me like a person and like want to do something with me as a team. Yeah, and there also are just more kinks than violent kinks, or violent kinks, rather. There's also more kinks than violent kinks. Yeah, most people, like, I don't know how very many people in kink whose favorite color is violet, specifically. But yes. To what extent is kink a healthy outlet for primal aggression that modern society has suppressed? And to what extent is it just a modern construction? I don't think there's any way to definitively answer that. I think going off of what Jency said in the chat, like, I think that sort of frames kink as fundamentally being about like an outlet for something. And I don't know what percentage, like if you were to tally up, you go to a dungeon, you do a bunch of surveys. I don't know what percentage of average scenes across the board are aggressive or feature like what we call violent acts in any way, versus like silly scenes or fun scenes or romantic scenes or sensual scenes or whatever. Like, there's so many different emotional and physical ways of doing kink that I think it's hard to boil it down to like just being a primal outlet. I think if it is anything that's close to that, the way that I generally think about it is that humans like play is an important part of like broadly like mammalian bonding, right? And mammalian learning, right? Like, you know, chimpanzees play with each other, like wolf cubs play with each other, like play is an important part of constructing social hierarchies, of bonding, of learning like the rules for engagement, and it also is an important part of like, you know, animal mating rituals. And I am not trying to evo psych my way into an argument here. I'm just saying as an example, like, you know, generally speaking, here are some examples of similar things to this in the animal kingdom that exist. I'm not saying that like this is why humans are the way that they are definitively, but like, humans like to play. We don't get very many opportunities to play in modern society. Kink is an outlet for types of play that we don't always get to do in adulthood. That can be bonding and fun and be a stress release and be a way of learning more about other people and have a lot of positive mental and physical side effects to them. So I think if it's like an outlet for any sort of primal anything, it's that like need for social connection and bonding with other humans. Now, the way that we do kink is a separate thing, and I would say the shape that kink takes in terms of how we do it, what our norms are, what implements we use, that is by and large a modern construction because it's made out of modern society. Like, I don't personally believe that there's any kind of historic through line between like Greco-Roman religious ceremonies or sacrifice rituals or certain like magical things. Like I don't think there's any like connective through line in terms of a lineage between intentional pain rituals in other human cultures and modern BDSM, because generally speaking, for whatever reason, human brains like intentional pain on purpose for a myriad of reasons, and it pops up cross-culturally, across time, in many, many different ways. And that doesn't mean that there's like, oh, well, like we do BDSM because of this, and this. Like I wouldn't call like Greco-Roman religious cult behavior like antique BDSM or like BDSM's ancestor, because there's no like connective line between us and them, other than humans again like bonding, humans like ceremony, humans like ritual, humans like intentional pain on purpose, and that just comes out in a lot of different ways across different segments of society. So the way that we do it is definitely a modern construction. Like the way that they would have done it in the 17th century is going to be different than how we do it now. There are things that would be surprising to modern people about how similar they would end up being, or what interests might be similar if we were to introduce like George Washington to kink. Like if we found out that like Benjamin Franklin, if that motherfucker is kinky, I'm not surprised in the least. That would be like the least surprising thing ever. But like, I think if we were to show them like, hey, these are some things that people like doing, you want to try them, like I don't think I would be shocked about what they would pick. Also depends on how much they justify. If someone has or is really into a misogyny kink, different strokes. If they justify it by saying women actually are I have a stream thing that's blocking part of that sentence. Actually are inferior, it's a problem. Yeah, exactly. That's where my line is. Like, if you want to play with misogyny because something about the idea is intriguing to you, or it, you like, sticking it to, conservatives or something, like, I don't know, whatever your motivation is, as long as you understand that it's not real. If you understand that like you're playing with the misogyny kink, doesn't mean that like there is a deeper truth about all human beings across the board, regardless of their relationship to you personally. You gotta have that line. You gotta have that line where you can separate the difference. Because if you are, I think it's like, do you play with misogyny as a kink and that's just where it stops? Or are you doing certain kinks because it reflects a worldview in which you think that women or whoever group are inferior as a category, as a class, across the board, no matter what, because of nature, because of God, because of something? That's gonna be a problem for me, and it always has been. That's a bold line for me. I think playing with ideas, even pretty controversial ones, in a consensual context can be really powerful, but you have to like understand where the lines are. And for me, understanding where those lines are means like not believing that like a group is inferior because of their birth, and like that some people are just like meant to be subservient because of circumstances. Benjamin Franklin was definitely kinky as fuck. I have not read that much about Ben Franklin, but just the vibe seems like he'd be kinky. The origin of boot blocking is a wild historical trip. I am sure it is. Especially anything that has like a military connection possibly can get pretty wild. All right, it is, yeah, the stream really is flying by. If you've not asked your question, I really recommend you do it soon, because we have been getting some big old questions. They've been super interesting, but have taken me a while to get all the way through, and I really appreciate you all asking. All right, I'm going over to the question box now. Did I miss any super chats? I don't think so. Thank you to Sean again for the gift memberships. Those are always so appreciated. And now let's get into some more questions. Oh, interesting question from Kopesh. Is there any danger or downsides to using essential oils on rope for a bondage scene? If I use it, will it wash out, or will the hank be lemon-scented rope from now on? I probably would not put undiluted essential oil on rope, because especially if it's not a washable material, it probably will just be lemon scented like Pledge from that point onward. If I wanted to do a scented rope, I would get some kind of scented rope butter. They're usually a really easy recipe. It's normally like Camilla oil and like jojoba oil and either coconut oil or some kind of more solid fat, like could be like shea butter or something. I don't know what they normally use for rope stuff, but like something like that. It's usually a really, really simple recipe that you could absolutely easily recreate with like very basic DIY stuff. And then what I would look up is it's called IFRA. It's IFRA. And it's the International Fragrance Association for essentially how much of something you are allowed to put in a certain kind of product. So if I go to, I'm going to find a random example. I'm going to do it. Let's see. I'm going to try to look up, like, it's because it really depends on the essential oil as well, like what kind of stuff you can have skin contact with. Because I'm worried about skin contact irritation with essential oils specifically on already irritated or abraded skin. So if I look up, let's see, does that have data on, no, that just has SCS information. That's not what I'm looking for. Eye safe, no. Lip safe, yeah. Is it skin safe? It's using soap. I'm trying to find out where how to blend essential oil safely. Ooh, there's like all kinds of stuff from that. Oh, okay, for essential oils there actually isn't an IFRA. There isn't an IFRA usage rate. So you might have to do some more digging on that, but I would definitely look up. I would go on the light side and I would dilute it in something else like a rope butter or a rope oil and then apply that to the rope. And then understand that the fragrance is probably really strong and it will probably fade over time, but it probably will be scented for the foreseeable future. But yeah, if you want to get into that, there's resources you can look up for, like, I want to make a body butter. Like, this is what I would look up. I would Google, I want to make a body butter with essential oils. What's a good amount of essential oil for a body butter? Or maybe even like, I want to make a like soothing skin salve for irritated skin. How much whatever essential oil you want to use can I put in that safely? And I guarantee you there are old ladies on Facebook and like old like DIY like apothecary groups and like forums and stuff that have this figured out and are like, oh yeah, it's like not a good idea to put more than this in here. This is how much I do. And that would be what I would go with. But the main thing I would be thinking about would be like skin irritation, because essential oils can be irritating for a lot of people. But if you don't want to stay super fragranced, I'd be careful about using something on the rope directly. But it's a really good question. It's a good question. Slick rope or hands make rope a total pain. Proper friction is your friend when it comes to bondage. Yeah, and I think like a light amount. Like if you're using a rope butter or rope oil, you're putting on a very small amount. I'm a pagan and I want to try sensory play every year. Does it say on the spring equinox to connect to the earth? How can I talk about it to a potential partner? I feel like that is, well, I guess I don't know. A potential partner, not an actual partner that you currently have, because that maybe is a little bit different. How involved do you want them to be in the spiritual part of the experience or not? I think this, for me, gets into like proper disclosure for consent reasons. Like some people might not want to participate in something that's spiritual or religious for whatever reason. And giving them more information is going to give them the info they need to know whether or not they really want to consent to that experience. So I would probably just phrase it really simply. This is my technique. Don't ever complicate it. I see so many people on Twitter who are like, how do I tell my boyfriend I want to have sex without saying it directly? I'm so sorry you have a boyfriend who doesn't, like, turn feral the second that you tell him you want to boink. Like, I feel like that should be a gift. Like, your partner telling you, I would like to do the thing right now. Can we do the thing? That's a gift. Yes. But some people, they just can't do it. So, I recommend just being really direct, and I would just say, I have an idea. I would love to do a sensory scene for the equinox this year. Is that something that interests you? Like, maybe not even fully getting into it with the opening question, like just see if they're even in any way open to just the basic experience. And then when you get into talking about it, then you can provide more detail about what it is that you want to do and like why it's important to you and what role that they would play. But I think being really clear and direct is best, because if it's going to come out in the wash, right? Like, if it's the right person to do a scene with, it's going to be okay to ask about it directly. And if they're not the kind of person that's a good person to do this sort of scene with, it doesn't matter how subtly you ask about it. I mean, it does matter, because you don't want to trick them, but like, you can baby walk them into it, and they're just never going to be open to it. It doesn't matter how you phrase it, when you bring it up, the timing. Like, okay, don't blurt it out in the middle of like a family dinner, but use some amount of common sense. But if they're not the right person for that scene, it doesn't matter. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Henry the 8th? I think Henry the 8th and Sean have both gifted memberships. Thank you so much for the 20 gifted subs, Henry, and thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs, Sean. I very much appreciate that. You now all have access to emotes as well as a cute little badge by your name if you would like to use the emotes. We have very many cute ones. I will now demonstrate some of my favorites. My favorite is the bandit wearing a crown, personally. And I also love bandit with a bagel, because she loves bagels. Yes, thank you so much, Sean and Henry. Very nice. Thank you so much. But yeah, hopefully did I answer the question appropriately, fully? I hope so. Is there anything else on that I would want to say? Where is your energy and sprightliness coming from today? I don't know. Being well rested. Taking my vitamin D supplements. Honestly, that's probably it. Taking my vitamin D supplements. Not a question, but I wanted to share that when I went to my first in-person kink workshop, wasn't in Share and Munch, I felt so seen and welcome that I cried when I got home. Positive. That's so great. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. Oh, I know. That's how you know. I mean, that's how you know kink's for you, right? Like, that's how you know they're your people. I love it. That's adorable. It's gonna make me cry. I've been emotional all day today. It's just one of those days. I feel like I have like a part of my eyeliner coming off. Ugh. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And then Spider-Man. Ooh, Spider-Man, Henry the 8th, Vlad the Impaler. We got everybody in here. In high protocol or, quote, total power exchange, TPE relationships, can a person truly consent to waive their right to say no in perpetuity, or is consent only valid if it can be withdrawn in real time? I don't love dealing in absolutes about this, so other people think differently about this. As an educator, my line for what I feel comfortable promoting, not knowing how people are conducting their relationships, how well-intentioned they are, any of that, my line is, I think that there needs to be some kind of like break the glass emergency relationship ending word, because you don't know how a long-term relationship is going to play out. Somebody could end up experiencing an addiction. They could get a head injury that fundamentally changes their personality. They could end up falling down the alt-right pipeline and become an Andrew Tate fanatic. Like, there should be some kind of like get out of jail emergency, like things are completely off the rails type of safe word or way to say no or leave the relationship, and to say like, hey, this is over, this is not happening anymore. just to have that in your back pocket. That is not meant to be used as a, like, every time we do a scene, anytime I don't really want to do something. Like, it's not meant to be used casually. It's meant as a, like, things are really wrong, I need to be able to terminate this relationship, or definitively say no to something in a way where, like, you cannot construe it later as me still consenting. I think that's important to have. For legal reasons, potentially, for just general safety, for your own well-being. I think not being 100% totally, like, trapped is important to have, because then you always know that you're still making a choice to stay in that arrangement, as opposed to potentially resigning yourself to your fate with somebody that might be harmful to your well-being in ways that are totally outside of what you could have anticipated when you originally consented to waive your right to say no at a previous point. Like in my mind, how I think about it is like, if you are waiving your right to say no in perpetuity with the person, you're doing that under the assumption that the person you are saying no to is going to stay largely the same person. If they suddenly change in a catastrophic, unexpected way, again, like horrific brain injury, some other kind of thing happens that changes their personality in a way where they are literally different than the person you originally negotiated with, I think there should be a safe word in place, for example, for that kind of thing. I think there's certainly a lot more room in TPE for, like, maybe it's not just that, but, like, I generally follow the principle that I first heard from Milena Williams-Haas of, like, the property has to protect the property. The S-type has to protect themselves, including from their partner. And part of having a safe word like that in reserve behind glass is to fulfill that first requirement. And I believe a principle like that, in my mind, again, as an educator, for what I feel safe promoting, what I think is, like, in my risk profile to promote as an educator, I think that that is a basic principle to follow, regardless of whatever it else is that you're doing in your relationship. And it's not about consent being valid or not. I think it just depends. There are absolutely people who will say, I'm waiving my right to consent for forever. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter if my person changes or becomes totally different. I will never, ever, 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 no matter what, ever be able to say no in perpetuity ever again. And in fact, knowing that I have some kind of backstop would ruin the experience for me and make this relationship not worth it anymore. If that's you, great. We have different philosophies. That is not an idea that I feel comfortable promoting myself. But there are people who follow that. It's just not something that's in my risk profile to say is a good idea. But it does happen. And consent, in terms of it only being valid if it can be withdrawn in real time, that just totally depends on how you individually construe consent in that relationship and what you're comfortable accepting. I think as a baseline, being able to revoke consent, maybe not necessarily in the moment, but, like, to the relationship or to the circumstances or to it not happening again, I think that's important. I think that's important to be able to have, but that's me. Different people think differently about it. It's highly variable, I would say. Is a safe word the right thing? Can everyone just flee in the night? The owner might not respect a safe word anymore. That's also a great point. I think especially in the circumstances that I'm talking about, like the kind of extreme change, like I'm giving hyperbolic examples, obviously. And in those cases, a person, like, might not respect consent anymore. And the reason for having it there is not so much because it would change their behavior, but to draw a clear line in the sand for yourself and for other people. Like, having the power to say from this moment forward, this is no longer okay with me, gives you a mental backstop to, like, this is getting into abuse territory. I'm not okay with this happening. I'm definitively saying no. And now, from this moment forward, if you continue to do things to me, or chase after me, or do whatever, you know that it's not okay.
And also for other people as well, like other people in the community, law enforcement, etc. Like, it's not going to be a panacea. It's not going to maybe make anything necessarily easier, but that's what I would feel comfortable with personally. Question, re-safe word in terms of catastrophic personality change. Would the D-type respect that? Is the idea that this gets the S-type in the right frame of mind to leave to signal to others? I think I kind of just answered that. Like, it depends, right? I think there are some, like, personality changes or things that would happen where a D-type, even in, like, maybe it's not that they become super aggressive and abusive, but maybe they, like, maybe something else happens where they just, like, can't fulfill the role as a D-type anymore. Like, maybe they just, like, become really morose and, like, can't leave the bed, and they become, like, super submissive. And they may be, like, you don't want to keep staying in that relationship, especially if you're monogamous, because your needs aren't being met. And maybe they would, like, understand under those circumstances to be able to release you. But certainly not in all cases, like, if there's a really catastrophic personality change. But the idea is that it's like, mentally giving you a way where you still have the, like, secret key to be able to leave if you need to, as opposed to just being like, well, I guess I'm gonna get abused until he kills me, like, because I gave up my ability to say no, so oh well, like, guess I have to also believe in MAGA and vote for Trump now because he says so, even though it violates all of my values and principles. Like, giving you a way that you still know that you're choosing this and you have a way to leave. And also for other people, right? So people in the scene too, like other dominants, other people in the community, your friends, like, letting them know, like, hey, like, I said into that relationship, he's gonna say that he's still my dom, but he's not. Like, I used our safe word that's in our contract for this purpose, and they're, like, not listening to it. Just to make it really clear. But it's more about the mentality than it is, like, I think something that would actually, like, be like, oh, well, now I guess the relationship is over. Because, yeah, in those cases, like, it wouldn't necessarily actually help. Oh, yeah, I did answer it. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's my thought about it. It's complicated, though. It's hard because it's, like, I don't even think necessarily that would help in all cases, but I think it does something. It does something. And I think maybe part of it too is maybe if something isn't completely far gone yet, but things are, like, really, really off the rails, maybe that gives your partner the wake-up call that they need. Maybe even if the relationship is over, but just to get help for themselves of, like, oh, this is so bad that I lost the person I thought I would never lose. Maybe that lets them know that, oh, you've hit, like, rock bottom. Like, go to rehab, go get help. Not that that's, like, the main reason for it, but maybe as, like, a side thing. Yeah. Oh, glad you like the holiday theme. Oh, I love the idea of a chocolate muffin. That sounds fantastic. That sounds amazing. All right. I know that we started, like, a couple minutes late, so I'm going to keep going and try to at least get through the questions in the Q&A box. If you have not used the Q&A box and you would like to make sure to answer your question, please, how do I point to it? Please go to that and put your question in there. That's the best way to make sure that I see it. And if you put a question there, I will at least stay through answering all of those questions as best as I can. Can a power exchange dynamic ever be truly separated from real-world systematic inequalities like race, gender, and class? Or do these dynamics invariably reinforce harmful social hierarchies? Getting a lot of, like, really similarly phrased questions today. I don't think it's an either or. I think that we can never fully separate any relationship, whether it's queer or hetero or kinky or vanilla or polyamorous or monogamous. We can never truly separate our relationships from the real world and the political. Like, race, class, gender, religious beliefs, all of that is going to inform, in ways that are both loud and quiet, our dynamic with each other and how we show up in relationships, because we learn how to have relationships based on the way that we were raised, our values, our past experiences, what society tells us our role should be in relationships, we can be more aware of them and try to work around them or change our approach consciously, but we can never fully separate from those real world things. However, I don't think that means that those dynamics invariably or inevitably reinforce harmful social hierarchies, because power exchange can look so many different ways. Like, you can have power exchange between two switches. You can have power exchange between two people that come from like similar socioeconomic background, same race, same gender, similar job, and then like what social hierarchy is that reinforcing? But also, I don't always think that all hierarchies are bad. Like, it's all unjust hierarchies, right? It's not any hierarchy ever. It's unjust hierarchies, unearned hierarchies. And like, hierarchy is probably going to exist in human relationships on some level, even in very small amounts, for most people, again, because of like the circumstances of how we were raised and how people like conduct relationships and are taught to do relationships and all of that. But I don't think it has to be harmful. I think you can actually flip those things on their head a lot and do things in your, especially kink relationships, that teach you how to do relationships differently, that actually go against social expectations, that go against social norms, that actually invert things and essentially show you a new and more consensual way of playing with those things if you're playing with them, or again, just like flipping them on their head. So I don't think it's like an all bad, all good, thing at all. It's so variable. There's so many different ways of doing relationships. Like it totally varies. How can someone who identifies as a switch develop their sexual identity? It appears to be easier if you fall more into dom or sub, or define your sexual identity. I mean, it can be easier. I feel like the answer is just to like hang out with switches. Like, it's sort of like, how do you learn how to be bisexual? Like, hanging around with just a bunch of straight people is not really going to teach you how to identify with that and embrace that. Or like what it means to be bi. Or like, being in lesbian and gay spaces. Like, you can learn a lot from that too, and maybe even starting there is a better idea, just because it's something you've probably had less exposure to over your lifetime, because, the Disney Channel is not full of like gay movies and gay relationships and stuff, so you probably have a lot of models for that compared to like straight relationships. But I think just being around other switches and like playing with switches, conversing with them, all of that is what I would do if I was developing my identity as a switch. Just like talking with them, learning from them. I would do it the same way if I was like, how do I develop my identity as a bisexual? Even though most people are either like straight or gay. I think about it the same way, honestly. It's like a simple answer, surprisingly enough. A million anarchists just screamed at that qualifier. I know they did. But not that I don't identify as a political anarchist, but is it not just unjust hierarchies, right? Is that not what it is? Or is that one of those things that there's factionalism amongst anarchists about whether or not it's all hierarchies or all unjust hierarchies, right? Feel free to explain. I don't know if I'll get to it, but that's how I thought it was phrased. I wasn't necessarily trying to speak specifically to anarchism, but that's like how I've heard it phrased before from anarchists. Little Pupperina? What are you doing? You got up! Oh, it's because you don't know what time is, but you know that it's around the vibe of the time that I'm almost done. Anyways, okay, this might end up being the last one. If you have not put your question in the question box, speak now or forever hold your peace. I cannot promise that I will get to all of it. Your personality and interests, or your interest and personality flock with birds of your feather to learn to fly. That's beautiful, and I love it. First, we must abolish capitalism, and then all of our kinky relationships will be perfect, unironically. I mean, yeah, basically. Yeah, it's like there's no way to avoid hierarchy in relationships. I mean, like, vanilla gay relationships still have hierarchy, so, like, what are we gonna do, you know? All right, questions. I have a partner that is willing to partake in kink. I want to try to explain how to act more dominant and not just him doing what I ask, but I don't know how to describe that. He's willing to learn. Can he listen to a podcast on his own or listen to an audiobook or something along those lines? Because what I would do, and this is me, I'm a reader. I appreciate partnering with people who are readers. I will give you some book recommendations. Hi, Papacita. We're not quite done yet, but we will be done shortly. Hi, I know. We want to go. Oh my goodness, we ready? I know. Here, do you want to come up with me? And I'll hold you while we talk about books. Hi. Boop. All right. We're going to talk about some books, and we're going to hold the dog. We're going to talk about books, and we're going to hold the dog. Talk about books, hold the dog. Yeah, that's what we're doing, huh? Yeah. Oh, he's so good. He's such a good baby. He's so good. Good as cheese, that's you. Okay, book recommendations. I really appreciate these two books. So this is The Heart of Dominance by Anton Fullman. There's also the Dominance Playbook, also by Anton Fullman. There's also the New Topping book as well. But for DS, these are my favorite two books to recommend to a Dom to read on their own or with a partner. And this will teach your partner a lot about how to be a Dom without you having to tell them how to be a Dom. And this does encourage as well a lot of team building and work with your partner to discover what you want to have together in your relationship. Yeah, can he watch my videos? That's also a great point. Can he watch my videos? And this will give you a lot of advice on like what being a dominant looks like and like how to act more that way. And like not just doing what you are telling him to do. And the way that I describe it to partners who are like exploring that for the first time and they don't really have a lot of experience with it is like, yeah, I don't just want you to like do things because you think I want them or to act bossy or to do something. Like what I want out of a dominant, and this may not be you, this is like an introspection thing, is I want somebody who is being their full self with me and doing what they want in the moment with me and asking me to do things that would please them in the moment. And that can mean listening to parts of yourself that were probably quiet in the past that you put down and ignored because like, oh, but that's unacceptable, or like she doesn't really want to do that for me, or like whatever, and listening to that thing and allowing that to take up space. And so like what I find a lot with partners is that like, you know, they maybe would have never considered having a partner, like asking them to take their shoes off before, but they try and they find that they really like it. And they're not asking me to do it because I want them to ask me to do it. Like what's important to me is not the specific actions so much as it is my partner having authority in the relationship to get their needs met and to make requests of me and to be their authentic self with me in a way that they couldn't explore with other people. That's my thing with new people, is like there are things socially that we like, you know, if you are and also is a thing too, like are they actually inclined to being dominant? Is the thing. Because like when I'm with a new person who is really dominant and they just haven't gotten to explore it, that looks different than somebody who wants to play at being dominant for a period of time in order to meet my needs. Because it's a lot harder to like actually meet that requirement of being like your authentic self and like doing what you want and like making requests of me if you really are only doing it, you know, to try and appease me and my desire to be submissive. Like it doesn't work that way. It absolutely doesn't work. It is not an asexual sweater, although it is like one color away from being some kind of ace spec sweater. It kind of looks like, if anything, it kind of looks like the demi flag, I think, but it is pretty close. You're not far off. There's also a structural issue on what we mean by hierarchy. Like, I probably can pull a child out of traffic, so I can have a power over a child in that sense, but it's not clear that that is any exercise of power, or is a hierarchy. Yeah, that's a good question. It's a blanket. I have a blanket over the back of my chair currently. All right, hopefully that was a good answer, Haley. Good luck. I don't know if you were able to see that answer or not. I also love it when people follow up in future live streams and tell me how things went, if they used my advice, if it worked, if it didn't work. I love troubleshooting with folks. It's like my favorite part of doing these streams consistently is that we get the opportunity to do that. But with that being said, it's about time for us to wrap up today because Miss Bandita is ready to get going. She has little ants in her pants, and she would like to go outside and get her dinner, please, and then do more things with today. So that's what we're gonna go do. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I will talk to you all again later. Stay safe. Have fun. I will see you all soon. Have a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. We will be streaming next week on Boxing Day, December 26th. If you'd like to come hang out, we will also be doing some other things throughout the week because I know the holidays can be rough for people, and I will try my best to be around for folks because I know that can be rough and holidays are confusing sometimes. But with that being said, thank you all so much. I will see you all later. Bye!